Ever get that feeling like there's some kind of like hidden knowledge out there, like some key to understanding, I don't know, everything?
Oh, yeah.
So today we're diving into a concept that kind of grapples with the lost word.
Okay.
And no, before you ask, not talking about a forgotten Wi-Fi password or anything. We're going full-on esoteric thought here with Albert Pike and his work, Morals and Dogma of Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
It is. It's interesting how this idea of a lost word, it's everywhere, right? Like across so many different cultures. It's like this, like a universal whisper, something lost to time.
It's true. It's like that scene in those adventure movies, where they finally find the missing piece of the map and they're,
Yes.
This is it. This is the key to everything.
Exactly. And just like those movies, like this idea, this lost word, it's captivated people forever. But instead of some buried treasure, it's often connected to a lost name, a word, supposedly so powerful that knowing it could give you control over, well, existence.
I mean, you have to admit, it's a pretty captivating thought.
It is.
And speaking of captivating, Albert Pike, he really dives headfirst into this whole world,
Mm-hmm.
All the symbolism, hidden meaning, especially through Freemasonry.
Right, right.
But before we get, too lost in the weeds here, we should probably clarify, we're not, like, uncovering secret handshakes today or anything.
Yeah, good point. No rituals. Our focus today is really more on how Pike himself interprets this idea, the lost word. And he starts by exploring the historical fascination with sacred sounds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so for example, he talks about the ancient Persians. They believed the sound H-O-A,
Yeah.
like, actually represented the act of creation itself.
Oh, wow. I never knew that. But, you see stuff like that even today.
Totally.
Think about how AUM or A is used, in meditation and stuff. It's more than just like a sound, right? It's layered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's layered. And that actually leads us to, I think, a really pivotal point in Pike's whole exploration. He makes this argument that getting fixated on a literal lost word, like a specific pronunciation or some magic formula, he says that's missing the forest for the trees. He actually uses the example of the tetragrammaton, which is...
The Hebrew name for God.
Yes, exactly.
And it was written down, but like actually pronouncing it became like a no-no, right? They'd substitute it with Adonai instead.
Precisely. For Pike, that act, that substituting, it represents a much deeper loss. It's symbolic. It's a forgetting of God's true nature. He's saying that it's not the name itself that's important. It's the understanding behind it.
So it's about rediscovering like a lost understanding then, not about some literal word. Okay, I'm with you so far. But how does Pike back that up?
Well, he looks at, the historical development of religious thought, right? Especially among those early Hebrews. He suggests that their understanding of God, it was obviously very meaningful to them, but
Right.
it was often limited. Like, they imagined God as this physical being, almost human-like,
Oh, totally. Like all those stories where God's walking around the Garden of Eden, having dinner with Abraham. Don't forget wrestling with Jacob.
Exactly. It really makes you think about, how our perception of something like, well, God, how it changes over time.
Yeah.
And Pike suggests that this evolution, it often involved moving away from those literal interpretations towards something more nuanced,
Yeah.
more complex. And he believed that in these ancient mystery schools like the Freemasons, they were privy to this deeper knowledge.
So they had this inside track.
Yeah, in a way.
Okay. So for Pike then, this deeper understanding of, I guess, the divine, that becomes the real lost word.
Yes. But, and here's where it gets even more interesting, he doesn't stop there. Pike doesn't just leave us with this like abstract concept. He uses the actual architecture and symbolism of the Temple of Solomon to illustrate his point.
Oh, this is where the whole Masonic influence comes in. Okay, I'm ready to decode some symbols. Lay it on me.
All right. Well, Pike believed that the temple, it wasn't just a physical building, right? It was this representation of the universe itself and is constructed according to sacred geometry and numerology.
Wait, okay, remind me about sacred geometry again. I feel like I've heard that before, but I'm drawing a blank.
Sure. So sacred geometry is this idea that certain shapes, geometric shapes and proportions, they have spiritual significance. They're like these reflections of the underlying patterns of the universe.
Okay.
For example, Pike points to the Holy of Holies, that innermost chamber of the temple, which, by the way, was a perfect cube.
Oh, right. And the cube represents the perfection of the divine, right?
Exactly. And then you have those 12 columns surrounding the temple, symbolizing the months of the year, and the brazen sea on top of those 12 oxen. It's like this whole structure was designed to to tell a story.
To convey this, like, hidden message, yeah.
Exactly. And Pike's point is that we're surrounded by those symbols all the time, by clues to a deeper understanding of everything. It's like he's saying that the world itself is like a book, and we need to learn how to read it.
That's a really cool way to think about it. But then, okay, if this knowledge is everywhere, why does it feel so lost, right? Why haven't we, like, cracked the code yet?
Well, Pike actually addresses that with the story of Enoch.
Enoch. Okay, remind me about Enoch again.
So Enoch, whose name actually means initiate, is said to have built these two pillars, one granite and one bronze, right?
Okay.
To preserve knowledge because there was going to be this catastrophic flood.
Oh, right. And the granite one crumbled.
Right. But the bronze one,
Pillars of revival.
it endured, symbolizing, the lasting nature of esoteric wisdom.
It's like he's saying that even if knowledge gets lost or forgotten for a while, it can always, like, come back, be rediscovered.
Exactly. That rediscovery, that constant search for knowledge and, self-improvement, that becomes super central to Pike's message. He says that we can all be these initiates, seekers, on a quest to uncover that lost word in ourselves and the world.
Like that bronze pillar, right? Standing strong even though everything else gets washed away.
Yes, exactly. And, for Pike, it's not about, like, chanting these secret words or performing some big ritual, to access that knowledge. It's
Yeah.
about living your life with a purpose.
Yeah.
Like a higher purpose, like finding that sacred element in everyday life.
It's like his whole idea of the religion of toil, right? That
Yeah.
our work, I mean, whatever we do, no matter how, like, ordinary it seems,
Yeah.
it can be like a form of worship if we approach it with the right
It's mindset.
mindset, exactly.
Exactly. He actually writes, the true Mason finds the temple in the world, the altar in his heart, and God in his own soul. It's powerful, right?
Yeah, he's saying we need to find that sacred element not in some, like, far-off place, but right here.
In our lives.
Yes.
In the everyday.
Totally. So it's about bringing that intention and mindfulness to all those little things.
Yes.
Whether you're, I don't know, building a house or writing a poem or even just, like, doing the dishes.
True.
It becomes an act of, like, reverence, I guess, if you approach it with the right
Spirit. And that's what makes this idea of the lost word so, I don't know, relevant, I guess. It's not some ancient secret.
Right. It's not like we're going to find a treasure chest.
Exactly. It's this ongoing thing, this search for truth and meaning and
Becoming a better version of ourselves.
yes, exactly.
So it's about building that inner temple piece by piece through the things we do, the way we interact with the world around us.
Yes. And that brings us to, well, the question for you. What does your lost word look like?
Oh.
What's that knowledge, that understanding that you're searching for in your life?
Are you, like, fascinated by nature, always wondering how things work? Maybe your lost word is, I don't know, out there in the natural world.
Or maybe you're more drawn to creative stuff like art or music or, writing.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe your lost word is that moment when you finally, like, capture an emotion or get an idea out of your head and into the world.
Or maybe it's about connecting with people, understanding different cultures, or really
Yeah.
digging into, like, history.
Yes. The important thing is that this search, this whole lost word thing, it's personal.
Absolutely.
It's about bringing that same curiosity and wonder
Yeah.
that those initiates had into your own life.
So as you're going about your day-to-day, remember what Pike was saying about those hidden meanings. Look around.
Be open to it.
Yeah, be open to those connections, those aha
Yeah.
moments that might be right in front of us, because you never know, right? That next little discovery, that might be the thing that brings you one step closer to your own personal lost word.